Good morning, boys and girls. The Adventures of a South Pole Pig. I'm reading chapters 15 and 16. Chapter 15. Flora woke up the next morning with a terrible headache, but also a change of heart. She staggered to her feet. "Enough," she said out loud. Sophia had been wrong when she said pigs were like frogs. Pigs did have weapons. But what were they? Flora paced weakly back and forth. The chain around her neck clanked against the boards at every step. No answer came into her head. Flora ran her tongue over her teeth. They were great for chewing leftover scrambled eggs and watermelon rinds. But they didn't feel like weapons, and her hooves weren't sharp enough to put a hole through a paper bag unless it was wet. The door opened. "Good morning, delicious!" Amos dropped food into her bowl and ran his head over Flora's ribs. "How is Amos's little sausage?" Spit flew from his mouth with every word, and then he was gone. Flora fixed her gaze on the dark corners as she warily moved over her bowl. She didn't take a bite. Slither, click. She could hear tails sliding and toenails tapping just out of sight. Then a low tide of hissing rats flowed forward in a half circle in front of her. Flora realized she was more than 5 times as big as the largest one. None of them even came up to her chin. That gave her some confidence, but not much. She wanted to stamp her feet, but she was afraid her trembling knees would collapse. She tried to calm her beating heart. In the center of the mass, the king rat stepped forward. He opened his mouth impossibly wide, like an enormous yawn, and then brought his teeth together with a large snap. In the next instant, Flora was attacked. She swung her head, sending a couple of rats tumbling, but it didn't stop the crush of fur and teeth. Some jumped on her back, while others at her underbelly with sharp bites. She came down hard on her front feet, trying to stomp a hairless tail or two, but the rats were too fast. Flora scrambled backward, and as soon as she moved away from the bowl, the rats called off their attack and scurried to get their share of the slops. Flora looked down at her shoulders. They were covered with scratches and drops of blood. She felt dazed. Nothing had prepared her for an enemy so fearsome. Flora recalled Luna's attack on the barn rat. What would Luna do with the whole thieving bunch of ship rats? Well, she wouldn't give up, that's for sure. I won't give up either, Flora thought, trying to find the courage to believe the words. I can't give up. They're eating my only food. Over the next few days, Flora had to be satisfied with a small victory that kept her from starving. When Big Amos came down with her food, she found she could eat 4 bites by swallowing without chewing before he clomped away. By stamping her feet, she could usually keep the rats at bay and grab one more bite before the entire crew gathered. They were brave only in a large group. She also knew that when she was backed off quickly, they would leave her alone. But all of this meant she still got a little to eat. Yet Flora was determined not to give up on her dream. She continued to pull her box back and forth to improve her strength, and sometimes she practiced going a little crazy, prancing on the hind legs, shaking her head, and snorting. All the while she would whisper to herself, "Don't give up." The training always tuckered her out, which was just as well. It was easier for her to drift off to sleep at the end of the day. One night, curled up to stay warm, she saw 2 stars appear in the blackness. In her hazy half-sleep, she didn't question how stars could come down from the sky and shine in the hold of a ship. She just watched the tiny glimmers of light and remembered that night on the dock. The 2 stars twinkled, and then they blinked. Flora sat up, grunted, her chin clinking softly. Stars didn't blink. She waited. The pair of lights developed a furry face around them. "Cat attack," said the face. "Sophia," squealed Flora, "you changed your mind. You came with us." Chapter 16. "Shanghai," Sophia howled. "Kidnapped, stolen, forced to come aboard against my free will." Join the club, but Flora was so excited she couldn't keep her front feet still. "Cats don't join," Sophia glanced over her shoulder. "Never mind." Something was different about her, Flora thought. Sophia had lost weight. She looked less confident. "Are you all right?" she asked. "You look thin." "So do you, and definitely hairier." Flora looked down. Her hair had always been softer than the other pigs' hair on the farm, but now it was growing thicker, covering her body in a coat of white that could almost be called fur. Sophia picked up a paw and winced. There was a cut on it. The worst thing about being in this tub is that they expect you to work for your supper. I was tucked into a nice warm corner in the kitchen until the cook saw something hiding in the rice bin he didn't like. Flora had a pretty good idea what it was. The cook was lucky to have Sophia. She'd keep his kitchen rat-free. The cat went on, "Threw Sophia down here like a moldy sea-soaked bag of corn. Said I had to make myself useful. Apparently, there's a rat problem on this ship that can only be solved by making a cat miserable." "It's true," Flora peeked into the dark corner. "This ship needs a rat hunter like you." A scramble of claws came from the dark. Sophia crouched and stared in the direction of the sound. "Well," she said, "off Sophia goes, then to do her job." "Wait! Stay and talk for a little while first." Flora strained against her chain. "You wouldn't believe how lonely it's been." "Not lonely enough for some of us," Sophia muttered. "Gotta go." "You're going to do great, you know. You have the perfect skills and weapons." Sophia shuddered. "Yeah, perfect. But I thought you said—" "I like mice." Sophia flinched and hissed as a rat popped into view for a moment. "Mice practically roll over when you pounce on them." "But you told me—" "I might have exaggerated. Actually, Sophia grew up in a house with a carpet and a sun-warm cushion next to the window. Sophia hates rats." A loud grinding sound like teeth on wood started up close by. Sophia made a noise that seemed to come from deep in her throat. It sounded angry and afraid at the same time. "You'll get the hang of it," Flora said. She wishes she could help somehow. "Oh, I'm sure I will," Sophia sighed. "I'm a cat, aren't I? I'm not some creature with pebbles instead of paws and teeth and dull as spoons." Flora ignored the insult. "Well, whenever you need a break from hunting, I'll keep you company." The cat sniffed. "Too bad I have to go back to work at all. Unlike someone else," she looked straight at Flora, "who gets her food for free." "I've been working," Flora said. If the cat stuck around, she'd show her how strong her pulling muscles were getting, and I would be happy to work more. I'm willing to do it practically anything. Sophia sat back. She no longer seemed eager to go on the prowl. The tickle of a plane crept into Flora's brain. She sat on her haunches too. "Look, I can do even better than you. But I can do even better than keep you company. I hate rats as much as you, maybe even more. I bet together—" Flora's voice trailed off. She was afraid of sounding ridiculous. The cat's tail swished. "What are you saying?" Flora sat up tall. "Pigs are not known for their rat hunting skills, but no one's ever tried to teach us. I can learn anything, and I would very much like to prove that a pig can be good at important work. Sophia, since you are the rat-hunting sheriff on this ship, I would be proud to be your deputy." "Cats don't work with others," Sophia said. Then she looked up at Flora. "On the other hand, it's not as though the rat problem on this ship is going to solve itself." "I want to be useful," said Flora. "Aren't you forgetting something? You're locked up." "Not a problem." Flora stretched out her neck. "Your teeth look just right for cutting through leather." It took a while and more grumbling, but before too long, Flora's chain clanked to the dark floor and the collar chewed in two. Happy reading!